Hi everybody, thanks for listening. Think of someone that you love and cherish. Now think of them and how hard it would be if they came down with something that's called ALS. ALS is also known as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is a rapid, progressive, fatal neurological disease that attacks the nerve cells that control the voluntary muscles. This is determined by gradual degeneration or death of the motor neurons. The motor neurons are located in the brain stem, and the spinal cord. There are controlling units that are vital communication passageways to nervous systems and voluntary muscles. Messages sent from motor neurons in the brain and spinal cord are sent to muscles. Your brain has your upper motor neurons, and your spinal cord is also known as your lower motor neurons. ALS, the motor neurons, the upper and the lower, degenerate or die. No messages are sent. Muscles stop functioning, they weaken, atrophy, which is waste away, and fasciculate, which is twitch. The ability of the brain to start and control voluntary movement stops. What is affected? The voluntary muscles. They lose the ability and strength of their limbs and body. The chest and diaphragm fail. They lose breathing without ventilator support. The increase of pneumonia. There's an increased risk of ammonia as progression increases. This doesn't affect mind or intelligence, but they do end up having lack of decision making and stuff like that. This doesn't affect their smell, taste, touch, hear. Their eye and muscle controls, they still have those, and their bowel and bladder controls, but they need help to go to the bathroom because their voluntary muscles are harmed. ALS people die from respiratory failures most commonly. This death occurs between 2 to 5 years from their first signs and symptoms. 10% of them live over 10 years. According to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, approximately 20,000 Americans have ALS, and a little bit over 5,000 people are diagnosed each year. This is the most common neuromuscular disease. What does it affect? Who does it affect? All races and ethnic backgrounds, doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. Men and women, it's most common in men than in women. Most common in white men than in Hispanic men. It affects people between 40 and 60 years. It doesn't eliminate the younger or the older. About 90 to 95% happen randomly with no risk factors. 5 to 10% are inherited. 20% results from a genetic defect that leads to a mutation of enzyme SOD1, which is superoxide dismutase 1. This also affects, according to the ALS Association, scientists have proven that there is an effect with the U.S. Veterans. ALS is more common in the veterans than in general public. Risk of dying from ALS for veterans was 1.5 times in men than the men that didn't serve. The risk was increased for veterans of World War II, Korean War, and the war in Vietnam. Not all inherited are caused from SOD1. Symptoms. Early symptoms are twitching, cramping, stiffness in muscles, weakness in arms, legs, and body, and difficulty swallowing or chewing, slurred speech or nasally speech. The part of the body that it affects first depends on which muscle it damages first. When it affects the legs first, there's awkwardness in walking, running, and they trip and stumble frequently. The effects of the arms and hands first: they can't write, they can't button their shirt, and they can't turn the doorknob. The atrophy, when atrophy spreads very quickly within these people. The upper motor neurons, there's tightness, stiffness, and the gag reflex is increased. There's something called the Babinski sign, where your large toe extends upward as the sole of the foot is stimulated in a certain way. Lower is like the early signs. So they will have the twitching, the cramping, the stiffness in the muscles, and so on and so forth. With ALS, both signs and symptoms of the lower and upper motor neurons have to be present to have ALS. They won't be able to walk, stand, or even get in and out of bed. They won't be able to chew or swallow, which is it increases the risk of choking. Weight loss is another issue. They get depression very easily because their mind is still working, so they know what's going on. The lack of memory and decision making, like I said before. Diagnosis is based on observation of the doctor. They conduct series of tests, observe progression over time. Common tests that measure nerve conduction velocity is NCV. Abnormalities in NCV is not related to ALS. MRIs, they try to eliminate spinal cord tumors or herniated discs in the neck. Blood and urine tests are to eliminate other diseases. HIV and HTLV, which is T-cell leukemia virus, and Lyme disease, have ALS-like symptoms. So if you have any of these symptoms, please go to the doctor before you diagnose yourself with ALS, because it's the last thing you want. According to the prevalence of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, by physicians, a total of 12,187 people are identified with definite ALS across 4 national databases through web portal registration. There is no known cure yet. Scientists prove that there's a problem with glutamate. There's an increased flow of glutamate, which is a neurotransmitter in the brain. The higher level of glutamate in spinal cord fluid, they try to understand the problem to help solve the factor.
Ashley?
Just pause it. Where was I? Hang on. Okay. There's not enough evidence, but they see there is no connection between pesticides yet. They're investigating it. But there is a question between the toxins they encounter in the environment. Those are being examined for a possible risk factor. They also, according to the ALS Association, scientists suspect heavy metals, solvents, radiation, and electromagnetic fields may be a cause. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, approved Riluzole as the first drug to reduce damage to motor neurons by decreasing glutamate being released. Riluzole is an anti-glutamate. Riluzole lengthens survival by a few months. Slows progressions, allows patients more time in the higher functioning states. Lower level exercise like walking, swimming, stationary biking helps strengthen muscles that are not yet affected. This also helps fight depression and fatigue that these people have due to knowing what's going on. People with ALS also have to use wheelchairs, braces, ramps, or walkers. According to prevalence of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, in 2008, U.S. Congress passed the ALS Registry Act. This act helps physicians and health officials understand ALS better. It doesn't put ALS patients into a different group. It doesn't bring them out saying, oh, these people have ALS. It just shows the physicians what's going on with this person, how can they help them, and try to like understand what ALS is all about, because it's still an investigation and they're still going through looking at it and making sure that everything's okay and getting a new drug or whatever. Where did this ALS get its name from? Well, Lou Gehrig. It's also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Lou Gehrig himself. In the book by John Egg called Luckiest Man, Life and Death of Lou Gehrig was the first baseman in the Major League Baseball history playing for the New York Yankees. Gehrig was a powerful hitter for 17 seasons, played 7 World Series games on 6 championship teams. His game streak was 2,130 game streaks. He's also known as the Iron Horse. This record was broken in 1995 by Cal Ripken Jr. of the Baltimore Orioles. He was born on June 19, 1903, and died on June 2, 1941. His first signs and symptoms of ALS came when he was 35. Weight loss. He had signs and symptoms, and he had weight loss, his muscles atrophied, and skills decreased. He removed himself from the lineup. He physically went downhill, and he also went downhill in the public's eye because he wasn't playing to the best of his ability. He could no longer carry the lineup card to the home plate, so he just sat on the sidelines. A member of his team remembered him shuffling his feet like an old man in slippers to get around. This entire time that he had ALS, he hoped that he could recover and play again. So the next time that you and your friend nominates you to do an ALS Ice Bucket Challenge or any ALS challenge, do it. Because these people need to know that they're not alone. Thank you.